was born and raised in Orlando. I went to college in Sarasota. And then I moved to Chicago for 10 years, but then during the pandemic, I lived in Bradenton. I did van life for 2 years in Florida. I lived on the road in Florida, and I visited 120 out of 175 state parks so far. And now I live elsewhere in Florida, so I've lived in a lot of places in Florida. I have family from South Florida, and like the Atlantic, all over the Atlantic coast. I've had family live there, so. And I've also been a professional tour guide for 10, 12 years, so this isn't going to be a well-practiced spiel. This is really just a ramble, but I had a van life friend that I met out in Arizona come visit me in Florida, and it was her first time visiting Florida, like ever, which is super awesome because like it's not every day you see somebody who's never been to Florida, especially somebody well-traveled like she is. And so I basically sat down with her and the Atlas and Google Maps, and I told her what I believe is not to be missed. And I thought it would make a really fun ASMR video to share with you all. And if you happen to be on this video because you're actually looking for van life advice or road trip advice, and you hate the whispering, so be it. I'm sorry, and also deal with it. Before we really get started, just a quick celebration. I'm currently celebrating 950 subscribers. 950, baby. Woohoo. Woohoo. What a thrill. I'm still hoping I get 1,000 by or on Christmas. That's the goal. And in order to reach that goal, I'm recording and releasing a video for every day until Christmas. This one's either coming out on Christmas Eve or on Christmas. I don't quite remember, so. If you're watching this on Christmas or during the holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Solstice. I'm recording this last night was the longest night of the year, so I'm feeling the winter holidays right now, you know. So without any further ado, I know, quit the vamping, let's begin. Okay, we'll begin. So, when we left off, we were looking at the Sunshine Skyway, which is way up here. And it's actually a little bit hard to see this part of Florida in this atlas. I don't really think that, I mean, maybe they get their own metro area map. What do you think? Should we look? Let's look. So there's Bradenton. Sarasota's down here. Yeah. Unfortunately, this area is always on the margin. So let's just get back to what we were looking at. 6 years, so I know quite a bit about this area. By the way, I think Dickie Betts, one of the Allman Brothers, is from Osprey. I might be mistaken. I'm not sure which member. I think it's Dickie Betts. My dad is a huge Allman Brothers fan. So, Bradenton, or as they call it, Bradentucky. It's a little country, y'all. Sarasota. These are all gorgeous beach towns. Okay. The Gulf Coast beaches here are gorgeous. As long as there isn't red tide. I don't know, should we talk about red tide? It's kind of a Debbie Downer thing. If you're planning to visit these beaches, you want to Google like Sarasota red tide or Bradenton red tide before you visit, to make sure it's actually safe to swim in the beaches. Because let's be real, sometimes, unfortunately, due to agricultural runoff and the nitrification of the Gulf, sometimes there are mass die-offs and it just stinks like death, and it's disgusting. Alright, so we got into it, but otherwise these beaches are like paradise. Off the coast of Bradenton, there is Anna Maria Island. Anna Maria Island is a lot of people's favorite place to go to the beach, and I'll tell you why. Down further south, Siesta Key, Lido Key, Longboat Key, these other islands, these barrier islands, with the beautiful sugar sand beaches, white sand beaches. These islands are covered in tall condos. They are absolutely developed beyond recognition. Totally privatized shoreline, like it is. Let's just say not my Florida. But Anna Maria Island, they had a building ordinance that you're not allowed to build over two stories, I think, and so development on that island has been kept short, and it feels more like an old beach town, like when I was growing up in Florida. And it's not all just fancy high-rises on the waterfront. So Anna Maria Island is super charming, and unlike up in Tampa, like Clearwater, St. Pete, etc., you have to pay to pay a toll to get out to the island, or it's just incredibly crowded, and you have to pay for parking, and it's a hassle, and it's crowded. Down here, it's not like that. The beaches are free and easy. They are easy to get to. They're easy to park at. So Anna Maria Island, very easy, beautiful South Lido Park. And they've got nice little walking trails there, and it's a bit of a hike out to the water. But it's really beautiful, and there's great bathrooms, and it's open late. So I like Lido Key out by the resorts. You can park on the side of the road or at the public parking area, or down at a South Lido Park. So, what else in Sarasota? Worth mentioning is the Ringling Museum of Art. They've got the Ringling Circus, like the Ringling Brothers Circus. This was their winter campus. This was their winter home. It was actually their year-round home, but in the summer they would travel on the trains. And so, John Ringling, Charles Ringling, and Ida Cook, who was born Ida Ringling, they all had mansions right on the coast here. So there's Ringling Museum right there, right between Bradenton and Sarasota, right on the county line practically, right near the airport too. So the Ringling Museum of Art, consider a visit. There's also New College of Florida right next door. That's where I went to college. And if you follow any political news, you've seen what's happened to New College. The school that I went to, it doesn't even exist anymore. But that's where I studied art history, and that's where I learned all the art history that I know. Okay, so Sarasota also has out on Bahia Vista, there's a Amish restaurant worth visiting. It's called Yoder's. Yoders. Yoder's. There is a significant Mennonite and Amish population that winters in Sarasota, and probably a lot of them are year-round. And they have this fabulous restaurant. The breakfast is good. You should go for breakfast. The lunch is good, like fried chicken, and they have amazing pies. They have like literally dozens of pies on the menu. So I recommend visiting Yoder's. Down here, so once you get south of Sarasota, so here's I-75 here, right, the interstate. Once you get south of Sarasota, it gets a little bit more country. Now, don't get me wrong, the coastline is going to always be busy and developed. But these are smaller cities and smaller towns. So, over here, there's something called Shark Tooth Beach that is covered in shells, and yes, shark teeth. It's very easy to find shark teeth there. It's somewhere around Venice, Minnesota. There it is, Minnesota. You can look up Shark Tooth Beach. And then Port Charlotte is a kind of unusual place. It's weirdly country, like I said. And let's see what I'm looking at. There's also a weird, if you look at Google Maps, go on Google Maps and look up Rotunda, Florida, and look at the image of it from the aerial view. It's literally a development made of concentric circles. It is so bizarre. And it's largely empty. As you can tell, because it's white and not yellow like the cities. Punta Gorda, it is not pronounced Punta Gorda. It is I just don't see it. And they believed in this cult, the Koreshan unity. That's Koreshan. Koreshan unity. They believed that the earth, that the earth is a sphere that we live inside. The earth is a sphere that we live inside. So, that the stars were just like holes in this sphere that we were living inside of. That was like the main premise of their cosmology. The earth is a sphere and we live inside. And, there it is, right here. Just south of Fort Myers, Koreshan State Park, right here. So I guess they were between Fort Myers and Naples. And now you can see different houses where people lived. You can see their power plant from like the 1800s. I've neglected to mention that. They were from the turn of the century. You can see their bake shop and their blacksmith shop because they were here in the 1800s. Like, they were pretty early settlers of this area. And God bless them, they took their entire community and they donated it or sold it to the state park system. And that's going to be one of the strangest state parks I've ever been to in Florida, and I've been to 120 of them. So that was Koreshan State Park, Koreshan State Park, Koreshan Unity. The earth is a sphere and we live inside. It makes me laugh because that was like, they literally would say, you can sing-song it, like they really believed that. I guess it's a little bit like the flat earthers right now, right? Man, I'm probably pissing off a lot of people in this video. So, and then south of Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, these are all just pretty beach towns. Now, I will say this, once you get to Naples and Marco Island, this is all money. And it's the kind of money that doesn't want you on its beaches. So, although all land that water touches is public land, you have to pay to park at most of these beaches. So, and don't even bother going out to Marco Island, like, whatever. If anybody's listening who's from these areas, leave a comment below. Am I right? Am I wrong? I think I'm right. Because, of course, I went to school in Sarasota. I know people from all over Florida. So, like, this kind of place, this ain't for me. But if you're renting a place, like, I know a lot of people will rent places in Bonita Springs and stuff. These are beautiful beaches, but they're just like, they're bay beaches, so whatever. Now, what I will say is that Del Norwiggins State Park, Del Norwiggins Pass State Park is a wonderful beach. And that on your way from Naples into the Everglades, there's another state park you shouldn't miss, and that's Collier Seminole State Park. But I'll talk to you about that. It's right down here. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But having reached all the way down to Naples, we have reached the Everglades, okay? Now you may think, looking at this map, that only this is the Everglades, because this is Everglades National Park. You're wrong. This is also Big Cypress National Preserve. That's the Everglades. And all of this, you can see this kind of dash dot blue pattern on the map. All of this Everglades. All of this is the Everglades. All of this should still be the Everglades. And all of this should still be the Everglades. So, this is swamp, baby. Swamp land. Oh my gosh, there's so much I could tell you about. Like, do you see this orange outline right here? This boundary line. You typically see this kind of boundary in the West, where Native Americans, Indians, were removed to. Well, this is a reservation. This is a sovereign nation. This is the Seminole tribe, and there's a lot of other Seminole land around here, but this is like a major bit of land that belongs to the Seminoles. I'll tell you the short history. Seminole Indian, Seminole Native American history is fascinating. Maybe, you know what, I'm gonna look that one up on Wikipedia. We're gonna do a Wikipedia read-through of the Seminole Wars. The Seminole Wars, where the United States government fought and killed and pushed out Native Americans in Florida, were, I believe, the most expensive and catastrophic wars in American history. Okay, here's how it was described to me by the park ranger historian, is that it was like the Vietnam of the 1800s. That's how it was described to me. It was a losing war. It was a, like, cluster, you know. And, in short, it took a lot of manpower and a lot of money to push the Seminole Indians south in Florida, because they fought, like, very well. They were very good. And they never, still today, they never have been defeated in combat. Now, that being said, they did escape south into the Everglades, where, frankly, humans don't really want to live because of the mosquitoes, because of the poisonous animals, because of the water. Humans don't really like to live, like, in the swamp. But the Seminoles were essentially retreated into the Everglades because nobody could get them there. And although it was not their original land, it wasn't their homeland, they were able to defend themselves here, and essentially certain populations of the Seminole Native Americans remained free in the Everglades perpetually, and some of them would have escaped south from South Florida into Canada. No, Canada, into Cuba. Well, she's an expert, y'all. So, wow, I'm really going off on my tangents, but I guess that's the point of this, right? This is Florida History 101. Now, his people came from the West, I think. Anyway, it's a culturally diverse culture, the Seminoles are. Okay, I went off on a long tangent, but what am I trying to say here? So, the Everglades, I keep saying swamp, I keep saying grasses. The poetic term for it is the river of grass. It's like one big river flowing all through here of sawgrass swaying in the wind. And so many animals, the biodiversity is unmatched in the world. In the world. And little hills, tiny little, like 3-foot high hills called hammocks that feature other life. And who lives in the Everglades is, oh no, I'm gonna cry. Okay, I think I got through it. Is the Florida panther. The story of the Florida panther is very sad, unfortunately. It's similar to the story of a lot of predators in land that becomes popular with humans, right? Talk about popular with humans. Look at this. The Miami area. Predator, the Florida panther, which is a subtype of mountain lions. What else are they called? Cougars. They are similar but unique to other mountain lion populations. They need a large range in the roads that cut through the Everglades and the development that creeps into the Everglades. Unfortunately, has decimated the Florida panther population. And the population is fish die-offs. And it reeks of death for months, and it washes up onto the shore. So yeah, when people make fun of Florida, they're making fun of, yeah, a pretty bleak situation. And of course, this is not the story that your travel book is going to tell you, but I don't know. This is what it's like to off of Florida. Now, all that being said, if you're visiting, we've got two roads that cross the Everglades, and one of them is an interstate, I-75, and one of them is a highway, US 41, the same 41 that goes through Tampa and Chicago, all the way up to, what is it called, Copper Harbor, Michigan, I think, in the UP. US 41 in Florida is called the Tamiami Trail. Tampa, Miami, Tamiami Trail. And obviously 41 was here first. So, from 41 you can access these Everglades, recreation areas, ranger stations, etc. From 75 you can access, I don't know, the rest area, I guess. There we go, the Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge. They're trying to build another road through this frickin' refuge right now. That's how it is in Florida. People are just ready to make their money stripping this land for what it's worth. My goodness. Okay, Becky, let's keep going. But I will tell you the places of interest in the Everglades, from Naples to Miami. So if you're going to Miami first, just put it in reverse. So, first of all, we're going to start with Collier Seminole State Park, which is right here next to Marco Island in Naples. Collier Seminole State Park has two must-see things. Number one, they have a giant piece of machinery called a walking dredge. It is an enormous, like, 2-story house-sized walking dredge crane, more or less, that was used to pave US 41, to pave the Everglades. And if you go there, you can learn about how the human labor it took to operate those machines across the Everglades and pave this river. Spoiler alert, lots of black labor, of course, in like absolutely miserable conditions, because of the mosquitoes and just the heat and just everything. So once you visit Collier Seminole State Park, you're pretty much in the Everglades. And you'll want to visit the national park signage is really good. I don't really need to tell you about it. Just like pull off where you see the national park sign. But you also want to visit Fakahatchee Strand Preserve State Park. Fakahatchee, Fakahatchee. That's F as in Frank. Fakahatchee Strand. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. You just have to go. It's a quick visit. It's like a 10-minute walk down a boardwalk and back. But please take longer than 10 minutes because this place is absolutely unbelievable. Fakahatchee Strand State Park. Now, the other thing you're going to want to make sure to visit when you are crossing um, Buffalo Tiger airboat rides. That's a Buffalo Tiger. Write it down. None of the other airboat rides are as good. And I would know because I took a lot of them. And Buffalo Tiger airboat rides is run by Native Americans who grew up in the Everglades. It's so cool. I've had 2 different guides at Buffalo Tiger. Both of them were incredible. Now, Buffalo Tiger is actually a name, somebody's name, somebody who started the company. And he has been the mentor to all of the different guides who work there. And they value that indigenous knowledge, that oral history that's come down to them from Buffalo Tiger. And, I mean, what can I say? They give a good airboat ride. Now, I just realized that I was talking about airboat rides as if everybody knows what an airboat is. If you don't know what an airboat is, it is a flat bottom, shallow hull boat with an enormous fan off the back of it. It is so noisy, and it maneuvers very strangely because it's maneuvering from pushing air and floating on top of the grasses. But it's kind of like the quintessential way to tour the Everglades. Of course, realistically, like, the noise is terrible. You're going to want to bring earplugs. Although they'll give you cotton balls, I think, to use as earplugs. But if you really want to, like, get out in nature and do some good bird watching and stuff, you're going to want to find a way to use a kayak in the Everglades, but that's on you. I've never done that myself. It's hard if you're not bringing your own craft. There are probably vendors from Miami who will drive in the craft for you. Okay, so besides Collier Seminole, Fakahatchee Strand, the National Park stops, and Buffalo Tiger airboat tours, you're going to also want to visit in the Homestead area. There is a trail called Anhinga Trail. Anhinga is spelled Anhinga. Anhinga Trail is in Homestead. I've actually never been there for once. I'm not speaking from experience. My friend, I should name her. A friend of mine recommended that as like the obvious thing to do when you're in the Everglades, so I think it's probably another must-see thing that I just missed out on. And then you're in Miami. Welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. Welcome to the Caribbean, y'all. Welcome to the Caribbean. Let's get down here, man. Let's get down here. I don't think we're going to make it much further than Miami today. But go see the Miami Beach Art Deco Society Architecture Tour. It is one of the best, if not the best, tour I have ever been in my life. Miami Beach has its own brand of Art Deco architecture, streamlined modern, and it's just so beautiful. It's a whole fantasy. And the Art Deco Preservation Society deserves your money to go into fighting legal battles to keep those historic buildings alive. So go to Miami Beach and go take the tour of the Miami Beach Art Deco Preservation Society, and then go donate extra money after the tour because it was so good. It's so good. There's plenty of tourist stuff you can do in Miami. Honestly, like, get Cuban food, get Cuban coffee, but, what was I gonna say? The other thing you could consider, if you're already going to Miami, you could go to take a cruise. If you're already in Miami, you could go take a cruise. Miami and Fort Lauderdale are two enormous cruise ship ports that are right near each other, serving the Caribbean market, or like the Caribbean region. And if you want to look up last minute cruises, because you can book a cruise like a week away, pretty much, or like even maybe a few days away, which is kind of crazy, but it is possible. The website that I recommend, now you'll have to figure out how to use this website on your own, which if you know how to use the internet, you can do it, but it's a little complicated, like the search criteria and stuff, but it's worth it. It's vacationstogo.com, vacationstogo.com, and I have booked a last minute cruise with my best friend for $300. It was a 5-day cruise. That was bonkers. That was like, but it is possible you could get like a $300 or $400 cruise out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale very easily if you're already in the area. The only thing you gotta make sure is that you also book parking somewhere that you trust, and then find transportation to the cruise port. By the way, I have cruised out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa. I mean, I'm kind of ashamed to say it, but my dad loves cruising, and I love cruising too. I don't do it very often, but I do love it. So, vacationstogo.com. Blah blah blah, suburban sprawl. Things in Miami. Bill Baggs Cape, Florida State Park is really cool. It's there's a lighthouse down here, and it is like the kind of the southernmost place you can get to, like in actual Miami. And so it looks out over the ocean here, and there's a place around here in the water called Stiltsville. Now I'm gonna put a picture up of Stiltsville right now. That's Stiltsville. Say no more. You can view it from afar from Bill Baggs Cape, Florida State Park. But obviously if you want to get close, slowly going back to Mother Earth, mostly via hurricanes. Oh, should we talk about hurricanes real quick? So, hurricane season is it's basically summer, but the thing is, in Florida, summer is basically March through, like, the very end of November, like, March through almost early December. Like, we just had a tropical storm come through at the beginning of this month in December. It's kind of unheard of, but it's more and more heard of these days, you know. With, like, you know, normal climate is changing all the time. So, if you visit Florida during hurricane season, which is like any of the hot months, it's like basically any month that isn't December, January, and February, like, you actually need to be prepared that a hurricane may come. Gosh, that's a whole other video in and of itself. But, what do you even say about hurricanes? I mean, I've been through a lot of them when I was a teenager in Orlando growing up, in 2005, junior in high school, and we had 3 hurricanes come through. And we missed so much school for the hurricanes that our school year was extended. Boo. So we don't get snow days in Florida, but we do get hurricane days. We had Charlie, Francis, and Jean, and then we also had Ivan, but Ivan was kind of a big nothing burger. So, yeah, and Charlie was actually pretty scary. But talking about scary hurricanes, Miami, when I was a little kid, I still remember this. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I think it was in 96 that Miami had Hurricane Andrew, and lots of people lost their lives in that hurricane. It was a direct hit onto Miami. It was like horrific. I remember, I think that's the first big natural disaster that I encountered as a young child. So the thing about living in hurricane territory is, and if you're from the islands, you know this, or even if you're from up north, you know, obviously like New Orleans and the Gulf Bay has learned this, and the eastern seaboard has all learned this too, is like, if you live in hurricane territory, it is only a matter of time, and one day your time will come, and as long as it's not a direct hit, for the most part, like, it's gonna be okay. But if there's a direct hit, I'm laughing because it's true. If there's a direct hit, especially along these heavily populated areas, right? If there's a direct hit, it can cause massive, catastrophic damage, like happened in Fort Myers recently for Ian. never been there, except on a cruise. I went to Key West. It's so freaking far away. It's so far away, even from Miami. So, but I'll say this, when you're down here, you are full on in the Caribbean. And down here in Key West, there is a national, I don't know, a national monument maybe, I think it is. And if you do go to Key West, you have to book this in advance, but this is the must-do thing if you're kind of sporty and adventurous. You should go snorkel or